Hello and welcome everyone, and welcome to our webinar on social media marketing plus your association. Before I introduce our guest speaker, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. So first off is you are muted. We are recording, so if anybody would like a copy of this or if you miss anything and you want to go back, it will be emailed to you afterwards. We also will be having it posted on our website and our YouTube channel. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can put them in either the Q&A or the chat, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. So now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker from TrailBlaze Creative, Jared Roberts. Jared, I'll pass it over to you.
Great, thanks. I'd like to say hello from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'd like to thank our friends at Member 365 for inviting us to speak, and thanks all of you for joining us today for this discussion on social media and your association, your organization. So what we're going to talk about today real briefly is we'll do some introductions, and I have kind of a hopefully semi-creative way of doing that that's a little different than when we're all in a room together. We'll talk about the definition of social media marketing. We'll look at social media strategy, so optimization, promotion, engagement, and insights. Talk a little bit about content creation and what you're going to want to put out there. Briefly talk about selling on social media, and then we'll talk about some next steps that your association can take. So normally during introductions, we'd go around the room so attendees could kind of briefly introduce themselves. But instead what I've done is I've dropped my contact info in the chat along with our social media links in case you'd like to follow us. If you're comfortable with it, I'd like to encourage you to share in that chat your organization's name, maybe your role, and an email address. Or if you don't want to share all that information, you could always share a link to your LinkedIn profile. In the past, in my work with associations, I've managed a variety of different peer networks and have found it's helpful to connect online with like-minded professionals. So even though we can't be in the room together, I'm hoping that the chat will at least kind of serve that type of function. So the first thing we'll talk about is an overview of social media marketing. And to do that, it's important to understand what is social computing. And the way that I define it is it's the use of online communities, social networks, and any type of internet-based media for the purposes of collaboration, communication, entertainment, marketing, and networking. So the benefits of social media, it just kind of social media marketing and using social media is that it can improve your branding. It can improve fundraising opportunities. It contributes to member retention, and it can serve as an additional channel for customer service. By establishing a social media presence, you're actually able to expand your communication channels. So that there's a lot of people that are using social media, and if you're not on there, you're missing that opportunity to communicate with those folks. It can also be used to strengthen your connections. People trust an organization that they can find on social media. So it kind of improves levels of trust, and as a result of that, will strengthen your connections with folks. It also will contribute to your search placement. So because so many people visit social media sites, Google puts a pretty high priority on on traffic to social media sites. So if you haven't established a social media presence, you're missing out on an opportunity to contribute to your search placement. I like to say it delivers exponential visibility. So what I mean by that is if I have 200 friends on Facebook and I go to a great restaurant that I like, and I tag them in a post and say, hey, this is great food, and I share a picture of it, there's the opportunity of up to 200 people seeing about that business without that business spending any additional marketing money. So by having a social media presence, it gives you the opportunity to achieve that exponential visibility that you might not have if you haven't set up your social media presence. And it also is a great place for conversion. So it's a spot where you can convert your prospects into members. So here's some of the primary channels that you may have heard of. And we like to talk about Facebook being kind of the personal network, Instagram being for images. One of the channels that's definitely going to be important to your association is LinkedIn. It's for professionals. It's for decision makers. It's for managers. It's known as the professional network. Pinterest, which might not be as relevant for a lot of you, but Pinterest is there for branding, Snapchat for privacy, TikTok, which is definitely gaining in popularity for short, entertaining videos, and another way to increase visibility for your brand. Twitter for news, and then YouTube for video. And this chart here, which you can refer back to, kind of gives you a better idea of how many users are on each of the platforms and who the primary demographics are. And you can kind of see that, YouTube and Pinterest are a little bit younger. TikTok is definitely younger. LinkedIn, a copy of this presentation will be provided afterwards if you want to look a little bit closer at that. But those are kind of how each of the channels breaks down, with Facebook at this point being the largest of those networks. So it's not enough to create a Facebook page and walk away from it. You want to build a strategy around social media. You want to find out who your audience is, which you probably already know. You know who you're marketing to, you know who your members are, you know who you want to provide value to. And you apply a lot of those same questions to building a social media strategy. So you want to find out, how do you want to increase your brand visibility? What type of content should you post? How do you measure it? And those are all the things when you're building a social strategy that you should ask at the beginning, because you don't want to start posting and not know who your audience is. And you don't want to look at your insights after 3 months of posting and not know what you wanted to measure in the first place. So when you're starting out, it's important to build a strategy that answers those questions. Optimization is key. So you want to make sure that your business profile is set up correctly. And what that means is you want to make sure you use a keyword-rich business description, because like I mentioned, a lot of these things contribute to your search placement. Plus, if you're not accurately describing your business, then a lot of times people aren't going to be able to find you. You want to be selective in a username. So, if you can keep it on brand, for us, our business name is TrailBlaze Creative. And, one of the taglines that we have used for a long time is Trek Outside. So we tried to create usernames using Trek Outside and keep it consistent across all of our platforms. So be selective when you're setting up a username. Don't, try not to use 4 or 5 different names. You want to try to grab them right at the beginning of the process. Make sure you include all your contact information. That seems intuitive, but we see a lot of profiles that don't have phone numbers, don't have business addresses. And, that's a critical component to your members and prospects being able to find you. And it's also a critical component to showing up in the right places on Google. Connect it to your website. So add a link in there. Make sure if you have, with like LinkedIn and Facebook, where you have the ability to add products or services or an extended description, make sure you're adding in some of the services or member benefits that you offer. So that's a great way to not just have a tagline about your business appear when people visit your page, but to also have them be able to find out a little bit more about your page if they don't want to leave that social media platform to visit your website. And keep it on brand. Make sure that you use the same logo or profile photo across platforms, and other design elements that match up with your marketing materials or your website. And also, if you have a chance, use a video as a profile photo on any of the platforms that give you the ability to do that. Video definitely gets more engagement than some of the other media. So that's a nice added bonus if you're able to do that. Promotion. So, okay, it's you have your profile set up, your business pages are optimized. What do you want to do next? Well, you want to make sure that the social media icons are on your website and that they link to your social media pages. Try to send out a dedicated email to your followers, and don't just ask them to follow you. Tell them why they should follow you. You can follow us for business updates, We're going to provide interesting articles about X, Y, and Z. So tell them a little bit about what you'll be posting to the pages and what they'll get out of it by following you. Add a connect with us line in your email signature if you haven't already. Even if you don't want to have all the icons below your signature, you can kind of rotate them through every couple months. So maybe follow us on LinkedIn one month, and then the next month follow us on Facebook. So, just kind of update your email signature, because it will promote those pages, but it also keep it fresh so that, people might notice something different in your email signature. When you're speaking at Zoom events or in-person events, hopefully at some point soon, encourage attendees to follow your social media pages. And just make sure that you integrate your social media with your current marketing. So if you have an annual report or you have an invitation to an event that you're sending out, make sure that you include your social media links in those when you can. Engagement. So in the way that we define engagement, and it's kind of one of the most critical measurements as it relates to social media, is engagement is who is interacting with your post. So what that means is those are the people who are liking your post, commenting on it, sharing it, and doing things like that. So to get engagement, you want to make sure that you maintain an active presence. And what that means is we recommend posting at least a couple times a week. So you don't want somebody to go to your Facebook page and have their most recent post be from October of last year, because it's just going to show a lack of commitment to social media. So try to post a couple times a week, because you'll get in people's news feeds. Use content, this seems kind of intuitive and obvious, but use content that's interesting, relevant, and valuable. And to do that, you kind of skip back a couple steps to the strategy phase, which is defining who your audience is and what would interest them. So once you've done that, then you can start coming up with content that's interesting, relevant, and valuable. One thing that you can do to increase engagement for your association is to highlight your members, for sure. If there's an opportunity to do a spotlight on a specific member or a new member or someone who's been a member for 10 years, it's a great opportunity to do that on social media. You can tag them, you can tag their business, and that will help with get some additional engagement. So you can highlight members, upcoming events, your organization's news, your publications that you may offer, e-learning opportunities, continuing education, things like that. I mentioned before, but interactive content works well. Don't just put text up there. Make sure that there's photos, or ask questions, or add some video. Some sort of interactive graphics are always great. Establish a content collection mechanism. So we always say we recommend that you set up an email address that's dedicated to your social media, and you share it with your team. So anytime your team wants to promote something, anytime they see an article that's interesting, they send it to that email address, and it becomes kind of a central point to aggregate content that you can then share. And that kind of makes the job easier for whoever's posting to your social media. You can also, if on your website you have a form where members can submit news, you can use that for collecting content from members or from external sources as well. Once you've established your social media presence, make sure that you set up notifications and alerts so that, if somebody's commenting on your post, you're responding to them. You don't want somebody to ask a question and respond to it, 7 or 10 days later. You want to make sure that you have somebody that can follow up on those alerts, relatively quickly, and, be responsive to your members or the people that follow your page. You can also, to kind of make it a little bit easier when you're posting content, you can use a dashboard. So a lot of our clients will use Hootsuite for them, because you can set it up free for a certain number of channels. You can use it to create an editorial calendar. You can schedule out your future posts, kind of set it and forget it. And you can also add streams. So if there's specific topics or pages that you want to follow, you can use Hootsuite as a dashboard to collect all that information. So it's really a great tool to manage your social media presence in a single place, and to kind of schedule out your content. Stay visible. So to stay visible, we recommend that you like and follow other pages. Make sure that you're sharing other people's posts. So, track your members, follow your members' pages. And if they, post about something interesting or post a win about their business, share that with your followers. It's a great way to stay visible in front of their followers and your followers. And it's also, every time that you share someone's post or like or follow their page, they get a notification that you've done that. So it's a good way to stay visible in front of people, your stakeholders and the people that are important to you. You can use hashtags that, you can follow hashtags or even use hashtags that are important to your stakeholders. That's a good way to connect conversations around topics of interest, specific topics of interest that you might find valuable or your stakeholders might. I mentioned before about responding to comments. Another way to stay visible, we like to rotate the cover photos of our clients at least quarterly. You can do it to align with recent initiatives or promotions, but when you do that, people get an alert that you've updated your cover photo. It also kind of keeps things fresh, and it's just another way to get your business out there. And then, a lot of the things I've talked about up to this point have been organic, but you can also always consider, boosting a post or doing paid advertising to get in front of kind of an expanded audience, people outside your typical follower base. And then don't forget about collaboration. So, provide your partners with a sample post that they can use to share your pages. Ask them to, tag your business. You can request that from partners and influencers. It's always good to request reviews of your business, from people that will review it and share it, because that's another way to get that exponential visibility. When they post a review, all their friends have the potential of seeing that review. And when you're posting, make sure that you're tagging your members or board members or committee members or partners, whenever it's appropriate. So insights, those are basically your analytics, your reports on how things are going. And it's important to know your analytics terms, and you can read back through these, but I talked mostly about engagement as kind of the most important thing that we look at, again, because it means that people are actually reading your posts. And as soon as they like it, share it, comment on it, your ability to be seen kind of grows, because that also contributes to Facebook and the other social media platforms algorithms. The more people that like something or the more people that share it, the more people they let see it. So engagement's critical. Impressions are more built around if they see it in your timeline. So in other words, I may count as an impression if I'm scrolling through and an advertisement for Wendy's pops up. But if I'm not stopping on that, or I'm not clicking on or engaging it, it's just an impression. So to us, impressions aren't as important as engagement or actual if you're talking about videos, the amount of time people spend watching your videos. So these are just some of the common analytics terms. It's important to know them because you want to make sure that you're checking out your analytics at least monthly to make sure, find out what posts are working, what aren't, who's viewing your page. So if you want to tweak your strategy a little bit, the analytics are the way to do that. And these are some of the words that you'll hear, when you look up all those analytics. So measure your impact. You want to, at the beginning, define what your objectives are. We talked about this a little bit, but identify what you want to measure. You want to make sure you enable tracking of your analytics. So there are some platforms that you have to go in and actually enable them. I think Twitter, still makes you enable analytics. If you have an Instagram account, you want to make sure you convert it to a business account instead of personal, so you can access those analytics. And like I mentioned, access those reports regularly. So put it on your calendar to kind of check them out once a month at least. Share them with your team, because they do help help you define how you want to manage your social media moving forward. And it also, you can compare your social media analytics with your Google Analytics, to find out what link clicks are actually, or what type of articles or images or links are driving people to your website. And once they get to your website, are you actually converting those followers into, are you converting followers to visitors, and then visitors of your website, are you converting them into members or or clients. So content creation, what do we want to post? Where do we post it? When do we do it? And why do we do it? We talked about this earlier, but the content definitely should inform people. It should impassion them, and it should entertain them. If you're checking off one or all of those boxes, then you're more likely to get a higher level of engagement. So normally what we tell clients is we don't want to make it all about you. So it's important to, post information about your business. You can highlight events or e-learning announcements. You could talk about your member benefits. You could talk about, you could share public links to publications, blog posts that you've done, whatever it might be. But then remember that at least half of the other content that you're putting out there should be more about your community or of interest to your community. So you can spotlight your members. You can share interesting articles that relate to their jobs, their industries, whatever might interest them. You can also post about national or unique holidays, and as well as partner or vendor content. That's another, we mentioned that in collaboration. But the idea behind that is don't make it all about you or your organization. Try to mix in content from external sources, because, as you do that, even if those are articles on other websites, you're still positioning yourself as a content expert, and you're showing that you appreciate what interests your audience. So it's important to kind of have a healthy mix there. And the 30 to 70% is a bit arbitrary, but as long as you're doing about half and half, that's a safe bet. So what goes where? Again, these lines seem to blur kind of as time goes on, but Facebook we recommend for events, promotions, interesting articles, live streams. If you have content that can be live streamed. Instagram is definitely about images and stories and graphics. LinkedIn is, as I mentioned, it's the professional network, so it's good for job postings, it's good for company news, professional content. Twitter is going to be to share your blog posts, to share news, about content that would be of interest to your members. Maybe it's around advocacy or some of the other things that you do for your members, or topics that would be of interest to them. And then YouTube is specifically for videos. It's a great place for virtual. Nowadays, it's a good place for virtual event recordings and how-to videos and Zoom videos and everything else that we have going on. So the best times to post, a lot of these, I'm going to show you the charts for a couple of the big platforms and when you should be posting. And a lot of them look pretty familiar or pretty similar. But what I would say is, as we look through these, what you'll find is the heat chart kind of lands toward the middle of the day and the middle of the week. So these are the times that you'll want to post to get the most engagement. So if you look at Facebook, it's definitely on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a little bit on Friday, earlier in the day. Wednesday, for some reason, seems to work a little bit later in the day, but you can kind of look through these at your convenience. If you do have any pages on any of these platforms to go back to and say, oh, maybe I'll start posting on Wednesday at 11 o'clock because it seems like more people see my stuff then. Instagram, the engagement is a little bit actually wider than Facebook in terms of you'll see more engagement on the weekend with regard to Instagram. So that's really the main difference between that and the Facebook chart. With regard to LinkedIn, you can definitely tell that it's that professional network. It's midweek, it's midday, or maybe even a little bit earlier in the day. So it's kind of what's in the past been a traditional work day. And what seems to work best is Wednesdays, Thursdays, and early on Friday. So that's kind of when global engagement is best for LinkedIn. And then Twitter. Twitter's pretty active on all 7 days, but what you'll really see with this heat map is it looks like the bulk of Twitter engagement is in the morning between say 9 and 11 o'clock. So that just kind of gives you an idea, if you're using any of those platforms, some times that you may want to consider posting to them. So with regard to content and posting, we just say if you're going to do it, make sure that you do it well, and hopefully a couple of those tips provide you with suggestions on how to do that. One case study that we like to point to is Zappos. If you're familiar with them, they were one of the early adopters of Twitter for business use. They used it to connect with both clients and existing customers. They actually used it for customer service. But they were able to create kind of a fun and even at times a little bit of a weird presence. And they were able to show that they were adventurous and creative and open-minded. So whatever you want your brand to be, the point with that is whatever you want your brand to be, you can use social media to kind of help increase visibility for that brand. And Zappos is a good example of how they applied their uniqueness to social media and used it to their advantage. So in terms of next steps, that was kind of a lot of information to kind of digest over 15 or 20 minutes. But in terms of next steps, some things that I would recommend that you do, if you have a social media presence, pick an April event. So it could be anything, I know in April we have Volunteer Day, World Health Day, Earth Day, or it could be something fun like Burrito Day. Whatever it is, create a recognition post or a video or a call to action around that day. So you know that you'll have a post in April and you'll get out there. And if it's one of those days, you can tag someone in the post. So that's one kind of easy thing that you can do as a next step. This next one doesn't have as much to do about our most recent conversation, but we know a lot of clients that just have not claimed their Google business listing, and it's quick and easy to do, and it helps to getting found on Google and in search results. So if you haven't already claimed your Google business listing, you should do that. Do a search for your business, and if you haven't claimed it, you'll see something on there that says, "Is this your business?" And you can kind of follow the steps there. Update and optimize your social media presence. So use the tips that we provided earlier in the presentation to optimize it. Begin posting regularly about your members, benefits, publications, all the stuff that we mentioned before. And even if you can't do a couple of times a week, just get something out there once a week so that you have content when people visit your pages. Change those cover photos if you haven't done that in a while. Create an event. So if you have a Zoom meeting or a webinar that's coming up, create a Facebook event for it to promote it. And then go live. Try going live on Facebook. You get your followers will get a reminder that you're going live. It's another way to kind of get some of that extra visibility that we talked about earlier. So I know I put these in the chat as well, but that's my contact information, and there's some of our social media pages if you'd like to follow us. And I think that wraps up the presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to check out the chat just to see if there's any questions that I can answer. Maybe. Okay. So a question for later. Anna from the Institute of Law Clerks of Ontario keeps all channels but Instagram active. We also have a lot of student members, and in my opinion, is that they spend more time on Instagram on Facebook. So that's what we found. We actually manage social media for a couple different universities and university groups, and we found that it's important to have a presence on Instagram for those students. They definitely, we feel like you'll get more engagement from students on Instagram than a lot of the other platforms, including Facebook. So if you are dealing with students, I would recommend, or if you're dealing with a younger audience, I would definitely recommend having an Instagram presence, as long as you have content that you can post to that. And somebody else said, I think that may have been answered. Okay. Cool. And what I would say is, if I missed a question and you want to add it to the Q&A right now, or you want to add it to the chat so it pops up, I'm happy to answer that. And if not, what I would say is I provide you with the email address and my phone number. I'm happy to follow up our conversation either one of those ways. You can reach me both of those ways, and I really appreciate everyone's time today.
Well, thank you, Jared, very much for presenting today. We really appreciate your expertise and sharing with the community. So thank you very much for joining.
Definitely.
All right. Well, everybody will get the recording afterwards. And if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Jared. We will send you that information in the post email.
Awesome. Have a great day, everyone.
Oh, sorry. Oh, there are a few questions. Sorry,
Okay.
they're coming in the chat.
All right, let me check it out. So I like this one. So I'll start with that. Is there data about reaching, engaging old farts like me, and what platforms? So there are demographics related to each platform, and what we have seen is that an older audience leans toward Facebook first, and then probably Twitter and LinkedIn. So when we're dealing with clients, we normally tell them to start off by having a Facebook and a LinkedIn presence, and then create a Twitter presence. And then depending on what they do, we kind of go from there. So I think that if you start with Facebook and LinkedIn, those really will attract kind of the widest demographics. But as far as an older demographic, I would say Facebook will do that. Oh, what benefits do you see from posting about holidays that are unrelated to your business? So shares and engagement. So, I'm not a big fan of the, National Puppy Day or whatever it might be. But, if you post a cute photo of a puppy and somebody shares it, then all of a sudden you get visibility. Is that, visibility in front of an audience that you want to attract 100% of that audience? No, but maybe one or two people in that audience would use your services. So, even if the holidays aren't related to your business, there might be an opportunity to get some exponential visibility for your business by posting about them. But we do recommend starting with kind of on-brand holidays. So, if your association relates to the environment, then you're going to be posting about Earth Day. If, your association is for restaurant owners, then you're going to be posting, about National Tortilla Chip Day, or, whatever it might be. So I think that when possible, stick to on-brand related holidays and special days, but, it doesn't hurt to throw a Puppy Day post in there either. And I think that that's it on the questions. Did I miss any?
No, I think you got them all.
Okay, awesome. Thanks again. And I'd say it was nice meeting everyone, but.
Well, thank you.
All right, have a great day.